This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. Today I want to talk a little bit about the Shadow Lace Transfer Tool, and this is a ribber-oriented tool. It's made by Silver Reed, and you can see mine in its rather worn-out box. However, it almost never is in the box because I use it so much. It comes in a box with a book and some punch cards. And the punch cards are for doing a technique called shadow lace, which is really very pretty, but that's not what this video is about. What the video is about is using this tool, which we call jaws, to do transfers from the ribber to the main bed and the main bed to the ribber. A very, very useful thing. The transfer tool, the jaws, has two sets of 20 prongs. And there are two sides to jaws. It's very important for you to use the first side first. And fortunately, the first side of the jaws is marked with the number 1. And my first side is blue. And then the second side is marked with number 2. You're going to put stitches on one set of teeth, then you're going to close jaws, tip it, and get the stitches on the other set of teeth. You don't have to move every stitch. That's what's so fun about this tool. You can actually move just selected stitches. So I'm going to start up by putting some 1x1 ribbing on the machine to use as a sample. I have a small sample of about 40 stitches in width of 1x1 ribbing. Now, it wouldn't have to be 1x1 ribbing for the jaws tool to be useful, but this is just one of the many situations, one of the most common situations that I think occurs in knitting, where you need to transfer stitches from one bed to the other. And I like to work with the jaws with my needle pusher handy, so I have the two tools handy. And starting with the blue side of jaws, I'm going to set it so that I can pick up these ribber needles. And I just hook it over all of those needles. In fact, I can look inside the tool and I can see that I've got all of those stitches. Then I just lift up, holding the tool open, and push down, holding the tool open. And it isn't necessary for me to be really clever at pushing down, because I could use the transfer tool and put it on the needle butts and use it to help push down. Then I just wiggle a little and lift right off the ribber needles. And as you can see, all of those stitches are now on jaws instead of on the ribber. Then I close the tool and I rock it, and I'm just going to let gravity and the weights do the job of pulling the stitches from the blue side of the tool to the white side of the tool, and now they're all on the white side of the tool. Then I'm going to use my needle pusher and pick out needles up on the main bed to put these stitches on. And I want to make sure also that all of these needles are open, because it's pretty hard to put a stitch on a closed tool, hook. So then I just put jaws in place, and again I can peek down the middle of it to see if I have it just where I want it, and I pull out a little bit and I rock and wiggle, and all of those stitches are transferred at once. So it is a wonderful time saver. And let me get the other side of the stitches. I'll bring them up with the needle pusher, and I'll put the blue side of jaws on them. Of course, pushing them up with the needle pusher and with yarn in them opened them all. And I can see that I have every loop on a hook. I can also use this pusher to push down and get all of the stitches transferred, and then lift up a little and rock. And all of my stitches, and I can see I've dropped one. It's right here, but I'll get it in a minute. The stitches are on the blue tool. Close the blue tool, rock over, and then I need to bring needles out. So I have a place to put these stitches. And then I just pick the tool up and find all of those hooks with it and rock the stitches on. Where I have dropped a stitch, I'm going to lower the ribber a little bit and just pick up that stitch. Now, the one thing that I am prone to forget after I move a lot of stitches around is to fix my needle arrangement. So I'm just going to stop for a second, make sure that every stitch has a needle, and that needles are not in work that have no stitches. So having done that, I'm now all on the main bed, and I could knit on the main bed. Now, another thing you can do with jaws is you can pick up stitches that are on the main bed and put them on the ribber. And I think what I'll do is again use this tool to give me a little help, push them out ahead of time, and put all of the loops on hooks. And yeah, see, I didn't get a couple. Yeah, they look like they're on. Now, you can either push in with the tool or you can push in with the needle pusher. Take your pick. And look at that, they're all on the blue. Now notice, even though I was working in a different direction from the main bed, moving stitches onto the ribber, I still must start with the blue side. So hook the stitches on the blue side first. Then I close the tool, rock it over, and all my stitches switched over to the white side, the number 2 side of the tool. Then I need to bring some needles up because I need a place to put those stitches. And probably brought up a couple more than I need. Make sure that all of the latches are open because you can't put stitches on a closed needle very well. And then I'll just pick up and line up. Get all those loops over hooks. And I like to peek inside. I can see that I had a couple of closed latches, so let me fix that. Using my latch opener tool to open those latches. It's just a cut credit card, one of my favorite toys. Okay, now I should have better success at getting all of the loops on hooks. And it looks great, except for this one. So now I think I've got it. I like to look right inside the tool and make sure that I've got it. Then I'm going to lift up a little and rock, and all of the stitches are now transferred onto the ribber bed. So you can go back and forth any way you want. And then one more quick concept with using jaws, and that is that you can pick out whichever stitches you want, and you can move them. You do not have to move every stitch. So suppose I wanted to just move, let's say, the 4th stitch. I can bring those needles out to hold position. They'll open, of course. Then I can hook the jaws tool on them. Make sure that all of them are hooked. And then use the needle pusher and move them back. I have to tilt the jaws tool so it'll collect them. Now they're all on the jaws tool. But look, there are only 4 stitches up on the jaws tool. And I'm going to close the tool, flip it over, and then I have an extra little step. I need to figure out which needles that I need to put it on. So it's going to be the 4th. I guess I could bring out all the needles, and then I could remove the ones that I didn't use. You just have to remember to do that. And make sure those are open and get hooked. Each of those needles has to hook a loop. And tilt it over, lock, and that transferred those stitches at once. So you can move a few stitches or all of the stitches. Just a wonderful, wonderful, useful little tool. Shadow lace is a whole other subject that I hope to do in some future videos.